Hey everybody, my name is Jason. I'm here with zookeeper Josh. I'm here with Kiko, and in the background there, Mastari at the Toronto Zoo, where our mission is to connect people, animals, and conservation science to fight extinction. And I'm here to give you a few facts about the giraffes here and kind of what's going on behind the scenes, since we're living in this new world with COVID-19 and without toilet paper. We are doing the best we can here to take care of the animals. And I know a lot of you guys are probably missing coming to the zoo. Some of you regulars like to check in on Mastari all the time. And I just want to let you know right off the bat, the animals are definitely missing the public as well. Animals, they love a routine, they love their habitat, and part of it for the giraffes is having the people come in all the time. So a lot of the times when maybe a building is closed, maybe the vet's coming in or something, the giraffes love it when the people are here. It means they're going to have an awesome day full of enrichment and interacting with the public. So they're missing you guys as much as you're missing them. So I'd like to give you guys a quick update on the pregnancy, Mastari's baby, that's upcoming. Hopefully we're back open in time for everybody to take part in that. But we've done some baby proofing. I don't know if you saw it online, but we've got this baby proof fence in the front to keep a little one in and not getting a little too intimate with the public when you guys come. And the mulch is in to be a soft bed for the baby as well. So we've got a few things on the go. So Josh here is our resident toy maker. He's a bit of a clever clog, so he's built a few toys here for the giraffes that they get to enjoy the day with. So Kiko's using his long tongue. So in the wild, this is kind of the last thing a leaf sees before it dies at the hands of a giraffe. You're witnessing what an acacia lives with every day on the Serengeti. So Kiko's using his long tongue there to extract the leaves from those buckets that Josh has put on there. And that's exactly how a giraffe would eat in the wild, so this is a great way to promote natural behavior. They, when they find a branch that has thorns on it, such as the acacia, they have to use that tongue to kind of manipulate around the thorns to grab the leaves. Of course, if a giraffe encounters a tree without thorns, they'll just put the whole branch in their mouth and use those strong bottom teeth to strip it bare. But this is exactly how they would have to eat leaves off an acacia tree in the Mara, where they would naturally occur. These guys are native to Kenya. And they are endangered, unfortunately. There's about 35,000 Masai giraffe left. And to put that in perspective, that's about the amount of seats that are in BMO Field. So all of BMO Field can hold all the giraffes if they all sat one in a seat. So you can imagine one of the biggest threats to the giraffes is just the fact that they're so fragmented they can't find each other to reproduce. So, you know, herds, they naturally split and come back together. So that's how the genetics are shared, and they're promoting good health. But when a giraffe can't find another one, then that piece of the puzzle is taken away. So if you can imagine being in BMO Field without your cell phone and having to find your friend on the other side of the stadium, it would be very hard. Now, to put that in perspective though, the giraffes live in a habitat that's 336 times the size of the entire GTA. So if you were to scatter those seats from BMO Field all over the greater Toronto area, it would be next to impossible to find another one. So that's kind of the problems that these Masai giraffes are facing in the wild. But everything isn't such doom and gloom. Mastari is actually the #1 most genetically important giraffe, Masai giraffe, in all of captivity in the world. She's ranked #1. That's her claim to fame. And so with her being pregnant with Kiko, who was brought in to be the best possible match for her, we're doing our part to add to conservation to the population of these giraffes. So if any of you guys are curious as to what's going to happen when a giraffe gives birth, all mammals are kind of similar, but for a giraffe, everything's kind of up a lot taller than the normal creature. So when a giraffe is in labor, the first thing you're going to see is those front 2 feet, or even possibly that long nose, the tip of the snout. And once those are out, it's going to be about 2 hours. We have a rule of 2 and 2 in the zookeeper world, and it's just a rough guideline, of course. So that's 2 hours for a giraffe to give birth, and then about 2 hours for the giraffe to get to its feet. So that mother giraffe is going to have to push for about 2 hours to get it past those shoulders. So when you're looking at the giraffe as it walks by, those front legs, they're very long and thin. The neck is very long and thin. But right where it hits the body there, those shoulders, they're very broad. So it's very easy for the mother giraffe to pass those long neck and the long legs. But when it gets to the shoulder, that's where the majority of pushing takes place. So that's about 2 hours. So after pushing those shoulders out, well, it being 6 feet off the ground, gravity takes hold, and the baby kind of plunks to the ground. And the best way to describe it is like seeing a plate of spaghetti hit the ground. It's a baby giraffe just laying there, legs every direction, the neck all direction, and it's kind of laying there semi-motionless, and it's just entered the world for the first time, well, of course for the first time, and the mother giraffe is going to start cleaning it off to help it rise to its feet. A lot of animals, they have to clean off their baby because the smell will attract predators. Well, giraffes, they kind of have their own crib of death defense system. So the mother giraffe's able to just stand right over the baby giraffe. So the baby will be between those 4 legs, and those 4 legs, they can kick out in any direction. One kick from a giraffe can easily kill a lion. And when you also add in the fact that their neck and head is kind of like a wrecking ball, if she stands over that baby, it's very well protected from any predator that would like to get a quick snack. So when she's cleaning off the baby, it does get rid of the scent, but what it also does is the giraffe, they have a skin that's very tight to their body. So, when you're this tall, gravity has a massive effect on you. So fluid should pool in the lower part of a giraffe, but it doesn't. And the reason for that is their skin is so fantastic. It's so snug to their body. And in fact, early G suits that help pilots mitigate the effects of gravity when jumping into G speeds, they were all designed based on the skin of a giraffe's leg, how that keeps fluid from pooling in the lower extremities. So a mother giraffe really has to clean their baby well, and the reason for that is mostly to be more like the reason why we get a massage. It promotes blood flow under the skin, so this baby now, it no longer has mom to pump blood and nutrients throughout its body, it's on its own. So that mother is kneading the skin, cleaning the skin to get the blood flowing to those long legs and up to its head. And once the mother starts doing that, that's when the baby is going to start moving around and will rise to its feet and try to get that first drink from mom. So that's pretty an incredible thing that they do. One thing that giraffes also do, and it's kind of like us, is they have a bit of a daycare system when they're out on the savannah. So, shout out to all our daycare workers that I know they would love to be doing their best for the kids. But giraffes, they do the exact same thing. The giraffes, they have a creche, and what that is all the babies kind of the same age. They'll go to rest in a certain area, and 1 or 2 of the big females will hang out with those babies and protect them from predators, and that allows some of the other mothers to go out and feed and forage and interact with each other in a social way, and then they'll come back and relieve that female giraffe so it can go off and do the same. So that's kind of a cool thing that giraffes do. It's very social and very much like us. So also in this new world, we have social distancing, and giraffes are kind of like amazing for that as well. They're amazing for teaching keepers like us of social distancing. So the distance that we're supposed to be staying apart is roughly the length of Kiko's neck where he can bend it. You can see at the base of his neck there, it doesn't bend so much, but that's about 2 meters there, so that's how we're supposed to be staying apart. So as giraffe keepers, we always know that we have a very close relationship with our giraffes. We trust them and we train with them, but you have to be cognizant of that distance that you're within a giraffe, that you're going to be within touching distance from it. So we kind of already have this buffer ingrained in our heads, so that's awesome for us. But also giraffes, they kind of have a social distancing mechanism. They have a herd system that's called fusion fission, and what that means is you can leave the herd and you can come back. And in the old days, the giraffe herd was only defined as all the giraffes that you can see within eyesight, because we didn't really have a good understanding on their social structure. But the thing about that is, as a giraffe can be close to each other, they can still be connected while still being far apart. So that's kind of the new world that we're living in as well, where we have to be far apart and find ways to stay connected. Giraffes, they've been doing that their whole lives. So it's an amazing lesson we can take from the giraffes. Also, living in the zoo world, we have to keep things sanitary, keep things clean. That's kind of like one of the major things is zoonotic diseases and keeping things sterile and clean for these animals. So it's kind of ingrained in us that we have to do these things. But zookeepers, we may not be the best at washing our hands. We make sure everything is sterile for the giraffes, but we may forget to wash our hands before we eat our sandwich at lunch. It's something to wrap our heads around, but now we're in this new world where we have to be looking out for each other, our teammates and everybody. So I'd also like to give a shout out to all the people at the Toronto Zoo. I know I see a lot of comments commenting what an awesome job the keepers are doing, and my team's doing a great work. But there's more than that here at the zoo. We're deemed essential, and there's facility people that take care of these facilities. They're making sure everything's sterile for us. So we're doing everything that we can for these animals, but there's also people that are doing everything they can to keep us safe as well. So Kiko's in the background there. He's enjoying some Christmas leftovers. We're lucky that we still have some. Usually at this time of the year, they're kind of sick of eating Christmas trees. They've been getting them since December 26th. But Kiko here is enjoying a bit of it. And it's one of the awesome enrichment items that we give them over the winter. Giraffes, of course, they're notorious for eating leaves. And as a result of that, we have to give them leaves year-round. So, you know, we're living in Canada. There's not an abundant supply of leaves for a good portion of the year. But, I mean, that doesn't stop us from giving the animals what they need. Not just giraffes. There's, you know, stick insects, gorillas. There's lots of animals at the zoo that just love to eat leaves. That is what they eat, and so we have to give it to them. So up in their hay feeder there, it's not like the hay that you would give a cow, which is grass. That's actually a legume. It's alfalfa, so it's a stick with leaves on it, exactly what they would eat in the wild. And in that big orange barrel back there, that's silage, and what that is a fancy word for fermented leaves. So we have a tree farm here, not like the tree farm you would cut down at Christmas back there, but we have a farm where our nutrition department grows a forest to feed our animals. So we have trees that are grown and they're harvested fresh all summer, and they cut them down every day. They get their load of leaves that they're required to eat, but we also cut that same amount and pack it in a barrel. It's preserved and saved so that over the fall and winter, we're able to give them the exact same nutrient composition. The leaves, they kind of come out looking the exact same as they went in, with just a bit of a darker color. So it's a way to preserve these leaves to use them year round. And not only that, our awesome horticulture team cuts down trees and branches all winter long to keep the grounds looking beautiful for you visitors. And as a result, you can see we have some branches here that they love to strip the bark off of, and some poplar logs back there they also love to strip the bark off of. When a tree loses its leaf, you know, it sucks all the nutrient back into itself. It's not going to waste those nutrients. So the bark is actually super delicious and nutritious for the giraffe at this time of the year. And in fact, if that tree had a few leaves on it, they would probably select the bark over the leaves anyhow, because that's where the nutrition is. And Mastari's chewing her cud right now, so they have that big four-chambered stomach. The giraffe's four-chambered stomach is pretty awesome, you know, for digestion, obviously, but in a pregnant female giraffe, it's super cool because it allows her to do something that us people do as well, and that's get to see that sweet little baby kick. So that massive four-chambered stomach on that relatively small body for their height, it means that the baby gets pushed all the way over to the right. And so a lot of the times when Mastari's ruminating like this, or when she's eating from the hay trough, if she's at the right angle and the baby's awake, it's going to start kicking just the same way that human babies kick, and you know, you're actually able to see it. So some large animals like rhinos and bison, it's a lot of the times it's hard to see the baby moving in there, but for a giraffe, it's very obvious. And I think that there's online some videos of Mastari's baby kicking, so you can go online and check that out. It's actually pretty awesome, and for us, it's super cool to see one of our new animals before it's born in action. And as you can imagine, an animal with this bizarre physiology, they need a lot of practice using that body even before they enter the real world. So there's a lot of kicking and moving once that baby's awake in there, and not much room for it to hide, so you get a good look. So she's chewing her cud, and it's, I don't know if we're going to be able to capture it, but right now her cheeks are just balloon full of food, and she's chewing it. So they swallow their food, regurgitate it, chew it some more, because when you eat bark, sticks, and leaves, it's very tough stuff. It has a cell wall and a cell membrane. You got to break down to get all those nutrients out. But she'll stand there, she'll chew it, then you'll see it swallow, and it'll look like a baseball going all the way down her throat. You can see it clear as day when it goes down, and then you count to 10 kind of, and then up it comes again, and her cheeks kind of bolus out. So it's like if you're a zookeeper or a giraffe keeper, it's like watching the tides. Very relaxing and mesmerizing almost to watch the cud go up and down, and up it comes now, and her cheeks are popped right out. Kiko's enjoying all the leaves. So Mastari, she's very aloof. So here in the giraffe house today, we've got, you know, our awesome social media people here filming this. So it's a strange person and environment for her, and in this new world that we find ourselves in, everyone is wearing protective equipment. So sometimes to an animal at the zoo, when you don gloves and a mask, you might be mistaken for somebody that wants to give them a needle or something else. So, you know, sometimes some animals can be a little more aloof. Kiko, of course, is governed only by his stomach, so he's more than happy to get up and close and eat these leaves. But Mastari is usually the one to kind of hang back. When nobody's around, though, and it's just the keepers, Mastari's the one that's usually a bit more precocious, and she comes over to interact with her people. And they'll try to split up the toys and see if she'll come over. But this is kind of normal Mastari behavior. You can tell she's still chill, though, because when their nostrils are at slits like that, it means that they're very relaxed. When their nostrils flare open, it means they're trying to gain a lot of information. It means they think something's amiss. So for giraffes, they don't make sound. They're famously silent. So you've got to, as a giraffe keeper, figure out ways to you know, figure out what's going on with them and listen to what they're saying. So when they're silent, you need to figure out what their language is. So for giraffes, their face says a lot. So as I mentioned earlier, their nostrils flare out when they're a little bit nervous as to what's going on. Also, you can always check what direction the ears are going in. So the giraffes, their ears swivel in any direction, and they can be in two different directions. So when their ears are facing you, they're focused entirely on you, but you can see Mastari's ears as they turn about. She's listening to everything around her in her environment. But if the nostrils are flared and the ears are boom right on you, then she's really trying to suss out all the information she can from you. Also, the giraffes will use their tail. So Kiko did a swish there with his tail. A lot of the times that's like a fly swatter for a giraffe. So, you know, the giraffe, their tail, it's like very famous as a fly swatter because it can reach so far on their body. And I don't think we can quite see the length of Mastari's tail from here, but it almost touches the ground. So it's very, very long tail. So they can swat flies off a long portion of their body with that tail. But, you know, she just did 2 flicks there and we're inside. There's no flies. So what gives? Well, it's also another way that a giraffe can communicate with each other and can communicate with us. So it sends a signal to a keeper or another animal of their intention. So if Mastari were to be at the hay feeder, you know, eating hay, minding her own business, and Kiko, being the big dominant bull of this area, came over and walked over just silently, they could share that feeder. But if he comes over and is swishing his tail, Mastari's going to know that he's claiming that as his area right now, and she'll move away. So to the average person, you kind of don't really notice anything going on. You just see one animal walking to a feeder and another one walking away. But the more you learn about giraffes, you can understand that there's a whole language and a whole behavior of everything going on. So a few adaptations that these giraffes have to living in their native land is, one thing is, when you're this big, okay, a Masai giraffe is the biggest of all the giraffes. So not only is this a tall animal, but this is a tall giraffe. So the trees in the Masai Mara, very few of them are taller than this tree, beautifully painted on the back wall here. So there's no shade for a giraffe in Africa. So they have to take the full brunt of the African sun. And so when they're grazing for leaves up in the trees, their pink tongue out exposed to the sun so much would easily get burned. And I don't really know what a sunburn on your tongue would feel like, but I can't imagine it feels very good. So one adaptation that these guys have is that big, dark purple tongue. And when Kiko was sticking his tongue in that little enrichment feeder, you really got a good look at it. Now, if a giraffe pulled its tongue all the way out, you would see that it would be pink at the base. So, you know, it's pink like ours, but purple at the tip. And so that is what the theory of their purple tongue is for. And it's a great adaptation that allows them to eat all day long. They eat during the day, so they need to be able to mitigate the sun. They're very massive animals, so Kiko is the tallest animal in all of Ontario and maybe all of Canada. We'll see if any Calgary Zoo giraffe keepers think that their male is taller than ours. But Kiko could very well be the tallest living thing in all of Canada. But you know what? They don't weigh that much for such a big animal. So Kiko, as massive as he is just over 2,000 pounds. And Mastari, you know, being pregnant now, is approaching 2,000 pounds. She's gained about 250 pounds since the start of her pregnancy. So 2,000 pounds, you know, there's some big horses and some big cows that can also weigh 2,000 pounds. So a lot of people probably think a giraffe is going to weigh a crazy amount of weight. But you know what? From front to back, Kiko, there's probably only 5.5 to 6 feet in length. Mastari, shorter. So, and from side to side, when you're looking at him head on, he's only about 2 feet wide. So 6 feet by 2 feet, that's a very small circle there. So there's not a ton of weight. I mean, 2,000 pounds, it's a crazy big animal, but you know, to put in perspective of the animal world, you would think that they were a lot heavier than they are. Another question that we always get asked is, do giraffes sleep and how do they sleep? So yes, giraffes sleep, and you know what? Mastari, the further she goes into her pregnancy, the more we catch her sleeping. But giraffes, you know what? They don't sleep in the same ways that we do. So a giraffe, they can kind of go into a daze or have a snooze. And so when they're standing on their feet, they can kind of zone out, and that's like rest for them. It could be 2 minutes, it could be a half an hour. They also will lay sternal, so they'll just drop down onto their sternum there, and their head will be up, and they'll often ruminate and really enjoy chewing their cud. And they're having a snooze there as well. But giraffes do enter REM sleep. So when we sleep at night, we have REM sleep. That's that deep sleep when you have dreams. And you know, it's the sleep when your dog is doing little puppy kicks and whimpers. That's REM sleep. So giraffes, they do that as well, but they don't need as much of that REM sleep as we do. And a big bull giraffe like Kiko needs next to none. Mastari, of course, being very pregnant, she needs a lot more rest. So they will rest, but a giraffe laying down, that's a very vulnerable position for a giraffe. So if you're ever here at the zoo and you see them getting down or getting up, really take note of how long that takes them. And imagine if a giraffe was laying down and then saw a pride of lions coming to get it, how long it would take for it to get up. It would be very nerve-wracking for a giraffe. So they will only lay down when they feel very comfortable and only do that REM sleep when they're very truly comfortable. And how do you know when a giraffe is truly in that REM sleep? Well, they'll be laying down sternal, and just like your dog wraps its tail around its little nose and has a snooze, the giraffe wraps its head and neck all the way around its body and tucks its head kind of right back where that back leg is, and that's when they're out cold REM sleep. And they will do little quivers like a puppy does when it's sleeping. Giraffes will do the exact same thing. I'm sure they're not chasing squirrels, they're doing something else, but they do that REM sleep. And when the baby is here, babies need lots of REM sleep because they're learning so much. They're really using that brain. So you'll see Mastari's baby, when it's born, it will do a lot of REM sleep. And that's one of the reasons why we have this fence, so that if it falls asleep, it doesn't wake up on the wrong side. A giraffe, also, we have a question: how do they tolerate the heat? How do they tolerate the cold? How do they thermoregulate? So one cool thing about giraffe spots is that they're beautiful, yes, but they have a very good function as well. They're good for camouflage, although when you're kind of the size of Kiko here, you don't really need much camouflage. There's not many predators for a fully grown giraffe. That's one of the reasons why a giraffe in a zoo and a giraffe in the wild, once they achieve this mature size, there's very few predators that are even willing to tangle with them, let alone that can get them. So the camouflage is more for the younger ones, but those spots have another cool thing that they can do. There's a series of blood vessels underneath the skin there, and they can move the blood to the spots, and they can move the blood out of the spots. So if you can imagine, in Kenya, the nights can actually get quite cool. So late evening, early morning, they can move blood to those spots that are quite dark, and the sun can warm up their blood and warm them up. But then in the middle of the day, when it's crazy hot for them, they can move the blood out of those spots. And it's one way that they can thermoregulate. In terms of cold, there's no amount of fat you can put on a giraffe that'll keep it warm. You cannot insulate a giraffe. So, there's no sense even trying it, because it won't work. They're built to kind of lose heat, because in the African sun, you need to give away your heat. Give away your heat. You can't hold on to it when there's no shade for you. It's very hard for them. So a hot day for us is comfortable for them. A warm day for us is cool to them, and a cool day for us is cold to them. A cold day is lethal to a giraffe. So they can't hold on to their heat. So although these guys can go out in cool weather for a little bit, when they're exercising, they're kind of using their metabolism to stay warm, they shed heat. So that's why a Canadian winter, a giraffe cannot go outside in. The number one question we get asked, of course, is when will the baby be here? Of course, everybody wants to know when the baby will be here. Well, giraffes have this fantastically long gestation. It can be anywhere from 440 days to 490 days. It's such a big span. So, if I tell you a day, odds are I'm going to be wrong. It's going to be soon. But if she's still pregnant in May, we're not going to be freaking out or anything. It could be, next week, and it could be early May, and that would be perfectly healthy. Based on, if we say it's just 15 months, which is the classic zookeeper line of they're pregnant for 15 months, that'll bring us to mid-April. So we're hoping for that, and but we're ready for anything. But of course, for us, What's best for us is what's best for you guys. We want everything to happen when we have you guys all here to share it with us. Do giraffes jump is another question. Yeah, giraffes jump, of course. Like, you're going to be hard pressed to find Kiko jumping, but toy maker Josh that you saw earlier there, he made an awesome Christmas tree holder for these giraffes. So we had a stand in here that could hold trees upright, just very natural like for them. And when they first went in, Mastari, as pregnant as she is, was hopping and jumping all over it. And baby giraffes, I mean, I've seen more than one picture of 4 feet off the air. So they can jump. It's very awkward looking, but they can definitely jump. And then we got the question of which giraffe is my favorite. Well, I guess, since they're both staring at me right now, I'll pick the baby because you can't judge me just yet.
Okay.
All right, so I hope that satisfies everybody's curiosity about the giraffes. You know, we do this every day at 1 o'clock, and there's going to be lots of cool ones. Yesterday with Haley and the birds was really cool. I really liked how some of the animals that we don't often see were brave enough to kind of come out. The giraffes are one of those animals, though, that are going to come right over as soon as you guys are back. So thanks for tuning in, and tune in tomorrow at 1.